Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm doing another interview. My guest today is all the way from Barbados, and today they're going to come on and tell us a little bit more about themselves and their career.
Hi, my name is Wesu. I'm an ex-contestant of The Voice 2018. Been in music for an absolutely long time. I'm living in Barbados and enjoying the sunshine.
Amazing, thank you so much for taking the time to come and do this interview. So today we're going to be talking about your music career, and my first question is, when did you first get into the music world?
I got into the music world in 1996. Yeah, a long time ago. Right. I started at just about finishing secondary school. So I wasn't very good at the time, but that's when I started, and I just gained an interest and wouldn't stop. So it's been now 23 years.
Oh, fantastic. And can you remember like the first audition you did in the music industry?
Uh, I entered a talent competition and I got booed off the stage. It was
Oh,
hilarious. Yeah, it was hilarious. I wasn't very good, to be honest. I really wasn't. But then I entered the competition the year after. I trained for a whole year to make sure that I could get booed off the stage, and it was a drastic improvement.
yeah, that's
I
great. I
remember.
mean, at least you didn't get booed off the second time, but I guess at least you had
Second
kind of,
time.
yeah, I guess at least you didn't have like you had space to improve, which is great. So obviously, one big moment in your career was The Voice UK. So what was it like auditioning for that TV show?
It was quite terrifying. I mean, it's a reality TV show, we kind of know what the outcome's going to be anyway, but I was terrified because I was traveling from Barbados back and forth for all of my auditions before the one that you see, the blind audition. So you go through quite a few stages before you get on telly. And I remember just walking onto the stage and my stomach is doing all sorts of numbers, and I'm terrified, absolutely terrified. When I started singing all the way to just near the end of the song, I was still terrified. And when I realized the chairs weren't turning, then I decided to let go. But right at the end, the chair turned. I was like, oh, okay. What a relief. But for the majority of that experience, I was terrified.
Yeah, well, it's great that the chair finally turned at the end, and it sounds like you said, a kind of a terrifying experience, but it's great that you got to do that. So obviously you've been, like you said, in the music world for over 20 years. So do you have any advice to people who want to
Right.
get into the music world?
My advice pre-pandemic would have been go ahead first. You music is a very selfish industry, and if you go in, 1 foot out, it takes a lot longer to reach a certain status where you can actually live in music full time. And I've been living in music full time for 23 years. But times have changed, and this pandemic has really made things a little different, a little weird, a little difficult. So I think the only advice that I can give is make sure that you know how to evolve with times.
Yeah, that's some great advice, and thank you for sharing it. And I definitely agree. And I think people can definitely take something from that. So, you mentioned to me kind of yesterday that you've traveled the world with your music. So, what was it like being able to perform in those countries and people being able to appreciate your music all around the world?
Gratifying, to be honest. I think what I find the most gratifying is going to countries that don't speak English, you know, and still being appreciated for what I do because I don't speak many other languages, to be honest. I have bits and bobs here and there, but yeah, going to countries like Malaysia and performing and people are like, oh wow, that in itself, like going to Venezuela. Venezuela was a trip, you know. Um, yeah, but all the other English speaking countries, really nice. It's lovely. It's great seeing, um, you know, the cultures. Even though we're so similar, we're still vastly different in terms of culture. So performing has always been really nice. It's gratifying.
Yeah, definitely. And that sounds fantastic. And like being able to discover all the different cultures, like you were saying, just sounds really exciting as well and really fascinating. So, is there anybody who inspires you in the music world or inspired you to get into music?
No one actually inspired me to get into music. It was an all of a sudden thing. Uh, but over time, I've had different influences. You traditional influences like Michael Jackson and so on. He's been a heavy influence on not just myself but many of my peers. But I'd say I've had music Soul Child as an influence. I've actually had some influence from the Beatles, BB King. Um, so it's just different types of people, different sounds. I remember at one point I was really into Nickelback. Yeah. Um, and I've taken what I could from all these different artists just to make myself who I am. So I'd say Stevie Wonder's been a major influence. Tyrese, yeah, those people.
Yeah, those are some great people to look up to, and it's great that you feel inspired by them. So early on, we were talking about what the auditioning process was like for The Voice, but what was it like having will.i.am turn for you and being able to work with him?
Well, in that instant, I did feel like a superstar. When he turned around, I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm in the big leagues now." But I wasn't in the show long enough because it's a very short show. You get the blind auditions, then the battles, then the knockouts, then semifinals and finals. I got knocked out in the battles. So I wasn't in the show for very long. So to I don't think I can answer that question with a very satisfying answer. In terms of working with what I am, it was just too short, too short. But it was a good experience. Anyone looking for that, I say go right ahead.
Yeah, well, it does sound like the time you were on the show was definitely a cool experience. Could we talk a little bit more about the battles? And because I know you battled Paige Young, so what was it like
Mhm.
battling her?
Oh, she's a sweet young lady. I actually liked Paige. It was just unfortunate that we were chosen to battle each other, to be honest. Because we're different vocalists, but from the minute I saw that I was battling her, I knew I was going to be knocked out of the show. Um, and not because I'm an inferior singer or she's an inferior singer, but she's a very good-looking, young, talented girl. The likelihood of me being chosen, regardless of whether I sounded better or not, was close to zero. So the rehearsals for the battles, during that time I was actually very, very ill. I had a really, really bad cold. It was actually turning into a chest infection. So I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to participate in the battle, but I did. In the end, by the time I got to sing, I was okay to sing. But at the end of the night, I was still coughing, and I thought I did a pretty good job. What was shown on telly wasn't the entire battle. I mean, the producers will edit and show what they need to. Um, yeah, so I was a little taken back by it, but yeah, it was a pretty alright experience. Just unfortunate that we were chosen to battle one another. Yeah, I think it would have been fair for me to battle someone of my style and my age group and so on for it to be, okay, well this is a battle on vocals instead of a battle on everything else,
Yeah.
since it's the voice. So yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for kind of sharing that experience and what it was like for you. And yeah, it was a shame you got knocked out because it would have been so cool to kind of see you go all the way. But it's great that you've been able to carry on with your music and do so many amazing things. So my next question is quite a difficult one, and it's where do you
Mhm.
see yourself in 10 years' time?
I was asked that question 10 years ago. and I answered accurately, saying still doing this. Hopefully releasing another album. I released my first album 9 years ago, and that was when the question was asked. Well, it was asked the year before I released it. I said by 10 years, I'd like to release at least two albums, and I released my second album on the 5th of May this month. Yeah, so it was weird. Where do I see myself in 10 years? I'd like to see myself behind the chair, in the producer seat. You know, I have been in the producer seat, but I mean, full-time producer, working with newer artists and trying to get them forward. Yeah, I've been doing that already, but I think that's the journey that I'm taking, trying to get there full-time and help new and young artists. That's where I see myself.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your goals for the next 10 years. And I think that's so cool how you were asked that question 10 years ago. And I think it's great how you said like about the two albums and that you have achieved that goal. And it's really nice to hear that. So if you could choose, what has been the best moment in your career?
I think the best moment in my career actually came last year, uh, when I was able to produce and direct my own music video and release my second album. The second album is totally me, where I wasn't trying to please anyone else. I was just releasing what I thought I liked for myself. I'm just waiting for the music actually to arrive on all the streaming platforms. It takes a couple of weeks for that to happen. But yeah, I think last year around July, August, that was the best time in my career, where I felt like myself. I felt real. I felt very happy, very proud of myself as a musician. I mean, although I've done quite a few things. I've performed in the Middle East, in America, Canada, UK, obviously, uh, South America, the Caribbean, Australia, all these different places. And as grand as they were, I think the most satisfying and the best time of my life was recording, producing my second album.
Oh, that's great that you enjoy producing your second album. It does sound like such a fantastic thing to do and something kind of extraordinary, which is super exciting. So, if you weren't in the music industry, what do you think you would be doing?
So I have a love for motorsport. I actually ride and do amateur racing on motorcycles. I think that had I not found music as a teenager, I probably would have ended up racing motorcycles as a career. Well, to be honest, I would have ended up in motorsport anyway. I'm not sure if I would have ended up racing motorcycles, but I found motorcycles later on in my life, in my 20s. Um, but yeah, I think I would have ended up in motorsport for sure.
Oh, that's a bit interesting. I always kind of love finding out what people would be doing if they weren't in whatever they were doing. And yeah, that's super cool how like that sport sounds great as well. So you never know, maybe you'll do it on the side in the future. You never know.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, I still enjoy it, I still have my motorcycle and I still, go on the track and have some track days and so on. But yeah, I think getting a little too old for it now.
Yeah, you never know, maybe. So
Yeah.
one more question for you. And my final question is, do you have any music stories that you want to share?
Um, I remember back in 2002, was that? I was performing in Jamaica and I had to open for Simple Plan, the band, rock band Simple Plan. Do you know them?
I've heard of them.
And yeah, and this is before they were like a world success. I mean, they'd just been signed to whichever label they're signed to. So they were doing quite a few concerts here and there. And I didn't know that I was opening for them. I just knew that I was performing at a concert, at a rock concert. Um, so I had my band and so on. This is Mardi Gras in Negril, Jamaica. And whilst I was performing, I mean, I rocked the house. You know, I had the audience eating at the palm of my hand, which is great. Loved it. When I got off the stage, I mean, I was exhausted. I was sweating. You know, after you perform, and especially when you're performing in that high energy, you know, you kind of just need a moment to cool down. And this guy approached me, you know, Jamaican guy. He was telling me how wonderful, you know, I was and how much he enjoyed. This is not his usual genre, but he likes it, and so on and so forth. To find out, like after I settled my mind that that was Super Cat, which is one of the guys I loved listening to as a child. I was like, what? And I missed out on asking all the questions that I wanted to, you know, because I was exhausted from going from performing. Needless to say, I never saw him again. He probably doesn't even remember the situation. Wow, but I'll never forget it. And that's one music story for sure that I like to share.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for sharing that story, and that is super cool how you kind of met them and that they told you that, and that's fantastic. So we have came to the end of the interview now, and it's been
Mhm.
fantastic finding out more about yourself and your career. So thank you for taking the time out to do this.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And also thank you to everybody who watched this interview. I hope you enjoyed it and found out a little bit more. And I'll see you next week for another one. Bye guys.